everyone. Good afternoon here. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 67 with Rachel. I'm Allison, and I'd like to start off asking what you're reading because I'd like to read. I'm reading Celeste Ng's book, Our Missing Hearts. It was on a lot of best of lists. Accepting things and saying invitation, it says you can't join, Rachel. Um, Hi, though.
Hi.
Hi. Whenever I see that message, it's like Rachel can't join. I'm like, oh boy,
Oh,
here
I'm
we go.
sorry it
But here
scared
you
you.
are. It's all right. I'm used to it. But how are you? This is a
I
very impressive
it's
background you
actually
have
your
going on.
prompt. I'm not reading any of these. Really, not, they're all in Hebrew. The defining. I don't even know what these books
Okay.
say. They're Talmudic. I'm office executive
Okay.
director, which I am
Okay.
temporarily occupying for the next month. So you know,
Yes.
it looks impressive.
So you're not a
Oh,
Talmudic scholar on top of everything else. Okay. Okay.
I want to tell you what I'm
Good to
reading.
know.
Uh, Well, it's
Please
called
do.
How
What
Not
are you
to
reading?
Drown in a Glass of Water. You know this book?
Okay. I mean, it sounds familiar, but like, does every book
I
sound
can't
familiar at this
remember
point?
who
I'm not
recommended
sure.
it to me. I just
Oh, it wasn't
wasn't
me.
sure where it
It wasn't
came
me. I haven't
from.
read it.
I I read audiobooks, so I measure hours
Yes,
that
that's a good way.
they take. It's a 6 hour book. I've been reading like 17-hour books lately, so it's a short one. And it's a uh, a series of like counseling sessions between some counselor who never says anything and a woman from the Dominican Republic who came to America and lives in Washington Heights. And like
Mm,
it's kind of outlining her unintentionally dysfunctional relationship with her son and her neighbors and the struggles of finding employment as a woman in your 50s and like navigating systems that aren't native to you and how people cope with things. And I'm really enjoying it because it's like a universe that's so unfamiliar to me. At first, I was like, how am I ever going to connect to this story? And then as she's going on and on, my heart was just like cracking open because she doesn't portray her life in a victim sort of way whatsoever. And there's no shame or anything like
mhm,
that. She's just kind of demanding that things
mhm,
be right for her.
mhm. That's the beauty of reading. I think you just summarized it. Like, for me, is learning about things I don't know about oftentimes, and then learning about myself while I'm at it. Like, that's the best
Yeah.
part of it. It's both because we share these experiences of not being seen and heard or not having systems work as they should,
Yeah.
and we can all relate to that.
I've
Um,
like, as I'm
so I'm
listening to
glad you're
stories
enjoying
of
it.
people who are immigrants, finding lately that my whole
Yeah.
conceptualization of immigration, which is like framed through the lens of like European Jews coming to America, is like so narrow and skewed and like really hardly relevant to the actual immigration experiences of most other people in America.
I think that's true for most of us whose families immigrated
Yeah.
in a different time. You know, it's not, I mean, I don't pretend to have any idea because the closest, and my kid did the family tree fairly recently for class because it's a great way to start talking about immigration and how we all got here different ways and that, unless you're indigenous, you're not from here. So let's reframe that whole conversation. And it's my great grandparents. That's the most recent. That's a long time ago, So for me to pretend like I have any idea what it's like currently, it's
Lillian,
nonsense, really. I
my
don't.
friend, my neighbor and friend,
This
and
is such a
like
sweet
I
thing
want to
to
talk to you
say.
more about that because I don't know your immigration story. either. And I'd like to be learning more about like the people in my life who I love and where they come from and like how recent that story is and what it
Mhm.
means to them. I, by the way, like promoted this to a few of my people, which I just
Good for
never do. And then there's
you.
some of them. It's so nice. Hi, everyone.
Good for you, because for those who don't know, and maybe for the people she promoted it to, she told them, but she was nervous about reading it. And so I actually offered, which I've never done before because you were nervous about reading it, to read it for you. But you were like, no, I can do it. And so I'm excited to hear it. I want to say one other thing about immigration. I read this brilliant book called Ancestor Trouble by Maud Newton. And hers is all about, she uses her genealogical search to talk about immigration, enslavement, all of these things that run so deep in this country's history. And I thought it was super fascinating and so much research. And she also talks about somatic experiencing. That's how she deals with some of her, you know, having come from the South and being a white person, having dealing with that, coming to reckon with that. You know, how do we reckon with our intergenerational accountability? So I thought it was really
I will
interesting
ask.
and well done.
I'll
So
ask you for
highly
that again at a
recommend.
time when I get it.
Yeah, when
Are
you can
you
write it down. We're not just about to read a poem.
America right now, by the way?
I am, but it's slow,
Uh, and
slow
I
going.
are
It's not easy.
Resma Menachem fans. Students.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's slow. But it's there, and I will continue on. So,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
ready to read your
I
poem, Rachel?
I invited my family to hear me read it.
Oh, nice. Some people are very into that, and some people are
On
not.
our
So,
monthly family Zoom, and a couple other family members wrote their own version and shared it as well. And then a few other family members are forthcoming. Um, and I had the same issue I had the first time I tried to read it out loud, which was like laughing out of control. Really had to calm it down. But I think this time I'm going to be able to say it. I think the vulnerability in reading it to my family is that they were going to fact check me, you know, everybody would know who I was calling in or out. And talk
mm-hmm,
about it later, but I
mm-hmm.
can read it.
I'm I'm very interested to hear all of that because whenever I write a piece that's memoir, which is this poem is, I put it out into the world and then I wait to hear if I've,
Nobody has said
so
anything.
far nothing. No, I don't think the people who I'm really calling out read my work or care. So that's good. And the people who I'm calling in or at least grappling with, we've talked about it. I'm not really like throwing stuff out there that I haven't talked about with people. I'm not like, hey, this is well trodden territory for the
I
most
always
part.
like doing it that way, like no big surprise here. I'm about to air. We've all been talking about it a
Yeah.
little bit before. You're, I can. Okay, all
They're
right,
ready for you.
let's do it.
The audience is ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to laugh because I know it doesn't help, but it's hard for
All right.
me. I'm
It
a contagious
helped last time
laugher.
when I said the title first, so I'll do it. Where I am from, Rachael
Okay.
Petru. I am from a bunk bed. From white musk body oil and clandestine Tootsie Rolls. I am from orange shag carpet, floor to ceiling mirrored walls, leaf covered lawns, and circus themed basement. Air hot and thick, woody, falling asleep to the late night radio DJ. I am from mulch covered seasonal flower beds, dotted with chrysanthemums, impatiens, perennial explosions mimicking 4th of July fireworks, calling in the season of blooming and basking. I'm from road trips over air travel and Sam's Wholesale Club shopping trips. The gum, the candy bars, raw chicken, and rolls of toilet paper in bulk. Never ending supplies of Diet Coke 2 liters and milk. From Ethel and Gert. I'm from pushing down emotion because no one seems to know how to feel it. And the love language of hand washing and waxing cars in the driveway. From you're a sneak and a liar. And this too shall pass. I'm from an interfaith Jewish and Presbyterian household, and I bet you can't tell which parent isn't the Jew. Sweltering summer camp cabins, Havdalah candles, acoustic guitar, the matzah ball, and fried matzah with jam, beret pri hagafen l'chaim. I'm from early 80s Motor City, Great Lakes, Royal Oak, Eastern Central America, since 1798. Sprinkles on pudding cake and crispy, crusty-edged Velveeta baked mac and cheese. From the family vacation to the St. Louis Arch, my nostalgic 6-year-old brother longs for the good olden days of visiting the Arch, even as we were crossing the Missouri-Illinois state line. The tiny and agile great aunt whose 7 decades old hips and hamstrings could still splay out into the splits. Generic Sterilite memorabilia boxes stored on shelves in the unfinished basement containing evidence that we were there. That photo book, this plaque, those bubblegum scented erasers, and a stack of folded notes passed in the 11th grade hallways. They illuminate a snippet of my history, awakening a felt sensation held deep in the fibers of my body, a sensation that can bubble up, see through the cracks of my present moment person, and be known, take up space, situate.
Yay! Your friend's Midwestern
I
heart
know,
is exploding. Or your
my
family member, I don't know.
I feel like
Okay.
I've known my whole life. And then I see like Jesse and Corrine just came. Yeah, these are people who've like known me my whole life, you know?
That's really sweet. That was wonderful. I have pieces of my heart are Midwestern, so I identify. And we also have the love language of hand washing and waxing cars.
Still,
So yeah,
yes.
it's tricky with the drought
Honestly,
here anyway.
glad my dad
Yeah.
doesn't come to, I mean, I
So
wish my dad would come to visit. My mom is the one who comes and she can tolerate dirty cars. But if my dad would come to visit and see the condition my car is in, I truly think his heart would break. Like, he comes out with the machines and the waxing, and like he brings us for all of the gear and does like
wow.
full trips
No, we did not have that.
when he comes to visit.
Wow, that's impressive. So what was the experience like writing this poem and sharing it? Because you have quite an experience. Because we
Yeah,
rescheduled,
absolutely.
what's your whole
You're the
experience?
kind of person who I want to say yes to, right? You are, because
Aw.
the things that you initiate are so, they inspire, in, in what's the word I'm looking for, when you look inside yourself. And I
Introspection.
know that I grow when I look inside myself. So I say yes, but then there gets to be a point where you're like, do I really want to actually do that? I know I do. Then there's that paralysis around it. So I experienced that, and I coped with it by treating this like a journal entry. I took the template and I answered every question like very fully, like every possible answer I could think of in that moment. So it took me like a number of days over the course of time to answer all the questions. But I thought to myself, I'll do that, and then afterward I'll take like the ones that feel like a thread and I'll make the poem out of it. So I did, but there's so many different versions of this poem I could read about where I'm from. And I was like, oh, maybe in the future I want to do it like Mad Libs and do a silly version, or, do a abbreviated version, or from a different perspective and time in my life, or attached to different people or places. And I ended up really loving it, and was surprised to learn that like members of my family were not at all paralyzed by it, and were just like, oh, okay, blah, 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 do it. And my partner also, he was oriented around it a different way, couldn't really relate to why I was like feeling that stuckness, and gave me some strategies to get through it. And but in the end, I read it and I was like, oh, this really does feel like where I'm from. And then when my family read me some of theirs, I was like, oh, these are also where I'm from, and that was fun. And I feel like this is something I want to invite everybody I love to do and share with me. Yeah,
It's fun. It truly is fun. Do you think part of your stuckness was because you were going to share it here? Or do
no,
you
it
think that
was
was
just
unrelated?
defensiveness. I think there was emotional distance,
Mm.
really, um, because I just took this temporary promotion, and things are challenging with my children right now. And there was just this part of me that was like, what happens if I become vulnerable? Am I not going to be able to hold it all together for all of the other commitments I have? Like, can I really afford to like think about where I'm from when really I need to just be in the here and now?
That's such a good point. I was just talking about that on the phone with a friend. It's juggling. It's difficult sometimes to find places to be creative or vulnerable when you are holding all these things together. And then if you do access that, then how do you switch? How do you flip back over and be present to the things you need to be present to? And I know women are good at multitasking, but that's different.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a different
There was a
piece.
moment in my life where I made a commitment to learn more about feminism and to,
Mm.
instead of like intellectually knowing I should be offended by misogyny or, gender stereotyping or, gender discrimination, where instead of
Yeah.
intellectually being outraged, that I would learn to have the feeling of it. And what I've learned
Mm.
since then is that, like, now that I've cultivated that felt sensation, I can't put it back. It's like days of
Mhm.
being a little emotionally oblivious are over. But those days got me pretty far in my career and permitted me to like tolerate things without it feeling like tolerating. And that felt like
Yeah.
that might happen with this. Like, if I
Mhm.
put it out there, if I spent the time I put it out there, would I be able to take it back in, and would I like be okay for the rest of my life? Like the life things that I need to do right now. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you felt like when you became like when you embodied that sort of feminist awareness that you did it because it was something you chose to do or because you had hit the wall of
It was a
being able to not
choice.
do it
I
anymore?
looked at myself and I was like, people think of me as being like an activist and an advocate, feminist, but
Sure.
I don't actually understand some of these things from a felt sense. And I don't know, tuning into like the
Hmm.
ways that I'm emotionally defensive as a coping strategy for things that have hurt me in the past. It's amazing what
Yeah.
happens that you get hurt at these formative ages and automatically you learn how to like shut that down and the coping strategies. I just was unpeeling that onion in, and then it was just time to get to
Mhm.
feminism.
Yeah. There's a saying in recovery when it's hysterical, it's historical. And I have just found that to be like the most useful. And I have gotten so much better at being like, oh, this is a
Mm-hmm.
really big response for this. I don't think this is, yes, this is annoying, this thing that's happening, but it's related to some. And and I was having emotional flashbacks and I didn't know it. So it's been so useful for me to be able to like pick those apart and start to feel them and deal with them. And I'm grateful for that
Yeah,
awareness.
it
Awareness
it does, and
helps.
it's
It's
like
the first step.
it allows me to connect to the type of people I want to be. Really, know. Uh,
That's true
for
too.
me, I know that for people who like have a big emotional reaction, then that can kind of be debilitating and take you out of a moment in a certain way. For me, like my hysterical looked like leaning into really binary thinking. And it was either is this or it's
Mm-hmm.
that. And I would become very decisive and cut out all nuance. And I just felt like that isn't
Mm-hmm.
actually who I am or how.
That's a really good description, Rachel. I did a lot of that too. I was just thinking about that yesterday. How I would just hate things because it was
Yeah.
like I can't even take this
And I
in, so I hate it. I can't
like
deal
I'm
with
going to tell
this.
everybody
Forget
I
it.
work with that just has to be this way and we're moving on. Not a strategy for uh, buy-in, collaboration, activity, and I like
No,
art, honestly.
no.
Until I started also, I didn't understand
Yeah.
art at all. And one of the things that got me through it really was the artist's way. 12-step program
That's
for
interesting.
restoring your need,
Mm,
for recovery,
it is.
connection to
Yeah.
creativity. And I love this theory that like
Mhm.
every single person is a creative person, and that is being an artist. And I heard
Mhm.
it actually, now I'll do like Torah scholarship. I heard a about
Good.
creation and the creator with a capital C. And we are the creations of the creator made in God's image. So if we're made in God's image, some small, tiny slice of God's image, that makes us, thank you, Jess, my childhood best friend, artist, right? But that makes us an artist. That makes us creative inherently. And the experience of denying ourselves the reality of our creativity is actually an insult to God and being the image of God. It
Mm.
denies us of our like humanity. So yeah,
That's really
but
beautiful.
for me, like people are like, "Are you an artist?" I insist on saying yes. I insist to myself that I say yes. Like
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
writer. I don't do it a lot, or when I do it, it's for professional purposes and I get paid for it, and it maybe isn't like
Mhm.
tapping into or feelings and thoughts that are organic to me just yet. But I am a writer. Like that's my form, is in words.
Yeah. And I think that as a person who is doing this mostly because I just want to talk to people and have them share pieces of themselves and engage in this conversation, I'm not a big fan of gatekeeping. It just keeps the people who are saying the same things they've been saying forever in power. And it's just, we silence ourselves, and there are systems also silencing us. But I'm working on, and it's ongoing, like every story counts. That includes mine. I'm much better at being like, your story counts, but that means mine does by default, and all of ours do. And this doing this every week has been so validating about that point, and because each poem really is meaningful to me. I don't like grade them, because sometimes people say, oh, it's tough to follow so and so, they were so great. I'm like, you're all great. There's not like, they're all wonderful. And I don't know. I just think it's a privilege to listen to people's things that I don't know any of this about you, even though you're a friend and I know a lot about you. I, I mean, I know you're from the Midwest. That's about it. Although you sent me a poem, and this is completely off the thing, but it made me laugh so hard that you had generated through like a generator. And it was you being from Montana. And I read it and I was like, is she from Montana? Like I had a moment of like, wow, I really always thought she was Midwestern. This is a lot of detail about Montana wildflowers. I doubted myself. I was like, God, she does not seem like she's from Montana, but I'm willing to be
That was
surprised.
a
So that
that
was
was
it was a
great. If
funny
anybody
experience.
hasn't played around with the AI like chat or whatever those are, it is. I, I'm speechless just thinking about what I did. I had it write my Where I'm From poem. I had it write a fundraising letter for Ocean Charter, which is the school that Allison's younger and my two kids are at. Which is, by the way, a no technology school. And the fundraising letter was all about how fundraising for Ocean Charter is going to help us advance technologically. But I also had it
That's
write
hilarious.
a letter of Southwest during the like holiday travel when I couldn't get Polly
Mm-hmm.
out of town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
It is really
Was it
useful.
useful?
It is.
See, because of course I'm like hot just thinking about AI because it makes me feel like, because I am not a fan of AI. I don't even call it art because it's not art. It's art thievery. And so I was, your poem entertains me, but of course, like this like gut part of me is just like,
It, yeah.
it's,
It.
it terrifies me. It really
There have been, since I ex- experimented with it, a number of reports reports and articles about like, is this going to displace people from the type of work that they do, which was my immediate thought. I mean, I wrote a fundraising letter about that. I think it took my exact words and regurgitated to me from something that on the internet. I don't know, but like for me, one of the greatest obstacles in writing good content is the first draft or just where to start. So that I can see could be very helpful to ask, to make a query and have it give you a first draft that it can inspire you to, you know, elaborate and improve upon it and make it yours. So.
Yeah.
It's
just
heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, it really is. So, anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up? This has been a joy. I could talk to you for a very long time.
Thank you so much, and for your patience and encouragement. I wouldn't know that you hadn't previously thought to make your story be as important as everybody else's, and I'm glad to know that that's a conclusion you've drawn from all of this, because I grow so much from the insights you share, which come from the ways that you grew up and the things you were exposed to and experienced. And like, your story is really important to me, and your friendship's really important. You've catalyzed like you're
gonna make me cry.
I'm just glad to know.
Go ahead.
That's all. I want to always know more about your story.
Oh, that's really lovely. Yes, that is something I struggle with. Because people ask questions when you're in meetings, like, does this story necessary? Do we need another story like this? You know, and so I sort of gather these, like you saying, being creative is, you know, an embodiment of this, what our creator has given us. I take that. I take people saying it's a revolutionary act and important and political and feminist, and I take all of those things and kind of like cuddle up to them and say, okay, it matters. It's not self-indulgent. It's not all the little voices from when I was a little girl and I was trying to speak and everyone was like, okay, now you can shut up. You know, so and I think for me, I've realized in the past months that I created this space because it was a space that I wanted. I wanted a space where someone comes and they tell their story, and I don't edit it and I don't tell them they should change it or be different or anything. I'm just here and I listen and I engage with it and I appreciate it. And that's what I always wanted. And so that's important.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. I love it when my real life friends join me because it's a different, you know, it's a different thing. I also love meeting my, you know, social media friends, but it's like, it's special, especially those of you who do not generally share their writing with the world. So I know that it's like a slice of vulnerability to come and share that part of yourself. And I just appreciate that you did.
You helped me fulfill a promise I made to myself 5 years ago that I would like publish something.
Oh, yay. That's wonderful. Well, thank you, FemLove. I don't know who you are, but I love your handle. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for getting the word out, Rachel. Your people showed up.
Truly the greatest people.
I know. It's really lovely. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And yeah, big hearts. And your childhood picture, your children really take after you. My goodness.
I just changed the blue from my eyes on a picture of me and like made it black. And I sent it over to Caleb and I was like, what are you doing here? He was like, when? Yeah.
It was really like striking. I was like, whoa, as a person who knows your children, I was like, okay, well, strong genes, Rachel. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a lovely rest of your day.